Hello and welcome to another edition of Y-PAC's Check-Ins. I'm your host, Sean Davidow, and today I'm joined by Jonathan Smith, the Executive Director for the Yakima County Development Association. Thank you for joining me today, Jonathan.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. YCDA, as people know it, has been a big help during the last year in the pandemic. First, I want to talk a little bit about what YCDA, what the Yakima County Development Association is, and what you guys actually do. Can you talk about that?
Definitely. So Yakima County Development Association was formed back in 1985. What originally started off as an economic development committee for the Chamber of Commerce became its own organization back then in the mid-'80s, when it was decided that we really needed to, as a community, stand up our own economic development entity to focus solely on the technical aspects of helping businesses. So helping local businesses with permits, with infrastructure, with workforce development, so that they could continue to grow and expand. And then also going out, around the country and finding out which businesses are a good fit for our community and letting them know about the assets that we have here, bringing them to the community. So we've been around for over 30 years and really focused on helping businesses on the technical side. So doing a lot of work around permitting, workforce development, site selection, those kinds of things.
And you even help people relocate here. You'll help businesses relocate to our community. Like you say, you go out and promote Yakima quite a bit.
Yeah, so some of the ones that I think most people would recognize, the bigger ones, there's a lot of smaller ones too, but the bigger ones would be Alexandra Molding out in Moxie. That was our organization back, one of the first, what you would call helping someone relocate here. And one that's even more noticeable as you drive by the freeway on your way to Tri-Cities is the Walmart Distribution Center. Our organization was heavily involved in that in the early 2000s when that project was happening. And many other ones, like I said, some are smaller. Those are the most notable ones just because they're simply such big spaces. But we do the same kind of work with local businesses, so helping businesses to grow and expand. Yakima Chief Hops or any of our other local businesses here are looking at an expansion or looking at something new. They can reach out to our office and we provide free confidential assistance to help them look at potential sites, set up meetings with the cities or the county to talk about permitting, talk about a path forward, all sorts of things. So I would say we spend the vast majority of our time working with the local businesses, which then helps us to be prepared when we have someone from outside the area that's looking to relocate here.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the last year and some of the stuff that you've helped with during the pandemic. YCDA has been quite helpful in distributing some grants and some monies to businesses that are struggling right now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so one of the other parts of economic development, of course, is small businesses. And what we think of as small businesses in our community is a little different than what they might think of as small business at the state or federal level. We think of a small business as mom or pop shop, maybe 5 to 10 employees, small business. We've got the Small Business Development Center housed within the Yakima County Development Association, and a full-time certified business advisor who works with small businesses, helps them get bank loans, helps them with marketing, all sorts of things. Well, enter COVID-19, and just because of the nature of the way that they manage that, lots of our small businesses were forced to be closed through no fault of their own, through government mandates. And so the government entities, state, federal, and county cities then made dollars available to give back to those small businesses. And we administered over $11.9 million of relief out to small businesses. So that's how much money we took in very big chunks, I should say, coming from these cities, some cases, $4 million at a time to us. And then we would distribute it in smaller chunks, $5,000 to $10,000 out to over 1,300 businesses. So in total, I think we sent out 2,300 something plus checks to small businesses, varying amounts. Some small business said they only needed a few dollars, a couple thousand. Others received more depending on the size, depending on the need. And we're seeing that kind of financial assistance is going to continue a little bit here in the first part of 2021 as well.
Now, you also help nonprofits, as I understand. There was a time when you were helping some nonprofits, organizations like that, correct? Can you talk about that?
Yep. So the city of Yakima made some dollars available specifically for nonprofits, which when they did that, there wasn't a lot available for nonprofit entities. They've been left out of a lot of the federal programs. They've been left out a lot of the state programs as well. And so the city of Yakima found a way to make dollars available specifically for nonprofits that were within the city of Yakima that had been financially impacted by the pandemic. And so, I want to say close to 700,000, $1 million went out to those nonprofits in dollar amounts up to 30,000, because some of the nonprofits are quite larger than what we would typically consider to be a small business. When you think of like the YMCA, and it has, the 2 locations and all those employees. And so there are some smaller nonprofits, like Yakima County Development Association. We're a smaller nonprofit with 5 employees, but and those dollars went out also because many of the nonprofits found that their demand for their services went up because they're providing community services, helping things go. And then as the economic times got hard, more people relied on their services. At the same time, many of them saw that their budgets, the income coming in was decreasing. And so how do you offset that? And those grants made a big difference.
Now, can you talk about, I know that you also help with some state, just when in the application processes and helping people to apply for those processes. I saw a series of videos that you did, just walking people through even the local processes. Can you talk about some of that work that you've done?
Yeah, and so one thing I will say is our business community is incredibly brilliant, incredibly resilient, but you just don't know what you don't know. And most small businesses aren't in the business of applying for grants. And it's its whole language, it's its whole lingo. There's a whole set of things that you need to do. When the nonprofits applied for grants, they knew exactly what to do. I mean, they were calling us and saying, you're going to need this, and you're going to need that, and you're going to need this, right? And we're like, yep, those are the things we're going to need. But small businesses, that's not the world they live in. And so we did our best to make it as simple as possible. I mean, these guys have, they're doing their jobs, and they were closed through no fault of their own. So the simplest that we could make it for them to get the dollars that they needed, while providing us the bare minimum that we needed to, provide adequate verification. Yes, this is a business. It isn't fraudulent. There was a lot of fraud with some of the CARES dollars that came out federally, state. And so what's the minimum amount of information that we need to collect in order to verify that someone isn't taking advantage of the system, while also balancing that against the need to make it as easy as possible. These guys are already impacted and struggling and trying to do everything they can to keep their business afloat. They don't need to spend 10 hours trying to go through an application. So that was kind of the balancing act that we had to do. So we thought the best way to do it was to just prepare these walkthrough videos where you can see on the screen what's being entered in. Folks sometimes have to enter in what they call an NAICS code. I won't go into detail on that, but our nonprofits know, are you going to need my NAICS code? Well, yeah, we're going to need that. A regular business is like, I have one of those, and we show them where it actually is. You can log on to the state website and find that. So those kind of things to make it simpler for businesses that they're in the business of running their business, not trying to do all this other stuff. Because of unfortunate circumstances, they're in that boat, and we wanted to make it super easy for them to get these dollars out to them. Close through no fault of their own. So let's get them these dollars as easy as we can make it for them.
And you were talking about some of the things that are coming up, some of the grants and future things that are coming down the pipe. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, the state has another 240 million statewide. So 240 million sounds like a huge number, but you spread it out across the state, it comes down to, I would say, it'll be equal to about one of the larger grant programs that we ran locally. And again, it's focused on those businesses that have been most impacted. And when we did some surveys and reached out and talked to businesses that had received grants, we found far and away the number one expense that these grants were used on. And I think this will be the case with this one too. The primary purpose of it is to help reimburse those businesses that have been closed for their fixed expenses. So if you're operating a restaurant or if you're operating a venue and you've been closed, you're probably still due for rent. You're probably still due for utilities, all of those kinds of things that you can't get away from, right? If you're not operating and you don't have an employee, you don't pay them. but still have to pay a lot of fixed overheads. And I would say like 80% of all of the grants went to pay those fixed overhead costs. Some of the remaining dollars went to, payroll, or to those kind of what you would consider more flexible costs for those businesses that were able to kind of be quasi-open. But what's coming up from the state is an application process that will open end of the month. So we've still got about another week, primarily focused on first priority to those businesses that have been impacted the longest. So as we moved into phase 3, those businesses that are still not open entirely will be given priority over businesses that are more fully open, just because they recognize that there's, a difference in, the ability of those businesses to pay those fixed costs. So we're putting together some walkthroughs, and this week we're going to be working with the Department of Commerce to get a better understanding of that application process so that we can provide better assistance to people locally who maybe might need some help filling out that application. Now, any business can apply, and you encourage people to apply. I know the state encourages everybody to apply, because it's better to, if you feel you need the need, then it's better to apply than not to apply, right? Yeah, and this is something that, like when we talk about the nonprofit world, we're used to. You apply for 5 grants and you might get 1. In the business community, we need to remind them that, that's the way that is a lot of times as well. So put your, if it's not too much of a burden, which is again why we're trying to make that as low as possible, put an application in. It's not a guarantee that you'll be funded, just simply because of the amount of demand out there. And not being funded doesn't mean that the business isn't important or anything like that. It's just a matter of however the system that's set up from the grantee is being evaluated. But if you don't put an application in, you're guaranteed to not get any assistance. If you do put one in, information into the system. And what we saw happen with the grants that we were administering locally is out of all of the people that applied, the only ones who didn't get funded were ones that we couldn't, get in touch with when we got to the final hour. The county made some additional money available at the very end of the first round of funding and said, anybody who's applied that hasn't been funded, that's eligible, they meet the qualifications of having financial loss, those kind of things. Let's get them some dollars if we can. And so being inside of the system with an application gives you an opportunity to take, advantage of things like that when they come around. Now, will there be priority put on people that haven't got grants previously, but that doesn't exclude people that have already gotten these grants, right? It doesn't. Yeah, I believe that the state program is going to have some sort of a limit on the amount of state funding that you've received, but I believe that limit is set around 25,000-ish. And so if you've only gotten, $10,000 through the state for your business, you're still eligible to apply for that. If for some reason you've received 50,000, you probably wouldn't be as competitive, but you could still turn in an application. But that's something that they're considering, as well as trying to get the dollars out to as many businesses as possible. And so what is the right dollar amount per business to go up to? Right. And the challenge there is, with $240 million, you could give something to everybody. Every business could get $500 or $1,000, but is that enough to help that business truly recover, truly make up for the deficits that they faced? And so got to balance that need to try to get something to everybody with what's a realistic amount of money that's going to really be a stimulus to those businesses and help them recover, help them get back some of the income that they've lost so that they can continue to operate. Right. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit. We've talked quite a bit about COVID and some of the relief and some of the grant programs. Let's talk a little bit about another program that you've had recently, the Enterprise Challenge. Can you talk about that and how that program works? And you've had some winners recently. So this was the Enterprise Challenge is a business plan competition that we've done since 2010. We do it in partnership with the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce. So it includes, all of Yakima County and also up into Kittitas, Ellensburg, Cle Elum. And we've done it again, like I said, since 2010. And this year, as we were looking at it, we thought, it can't hurt to just go ahead and see what's out there. We'll go ahead with it and see who applies. If we don't have a lot of businesses that are interested, entrepreneurs, then we don't hold it. And lo and behold, we had about 22 or so businesses that signed up for the competition. And as we got to know those businesses, the common theme among them all was that they had found a niche because of COVID. Now, all of these businesses had the ideas before COVID hit. And what happened was, because of the nature of their business, COVID really gave them a jump. So the second place winner is Base Camp Outfitters. They're in Roslyn, and they sell outdoor equipment, recreation equipment. So think of a mini REI kind of store with high quality, backpacking camping gear. And he said, I just started this as a hobby because I like doing the outdoor kind of stuff. And, we're in Roslyn, we're a long ways away from any place that you could buy this kind of equipment. And he said, then all of a sudden, when things closed and everybody headed outdoors, I couldn't get anything and keep it in stock. And so maybe I can make this into a full-time business. Sunnyside Meat Packers, similar thing. They were, starting off that business. They were the first place winner. And when COVID hit, just because of the nature of their business, it was one of those that ended up with more demand in the short term that really helped them to get launched. And so it was encouraging to see that there was still folks who were, let's make a go of this. They knew from COVID that, hey, the small business environment can be tumultuous at times, but we're still willing to put together a solid plan, a business plan, and do something that we can, make work for us and also provide a service to the community. So it was a rewarding experience to see that, and great group of contestants. And we do this every year. We get a whole host of sponsors. And because of those sponsors, the first place winner gets $10,000, second place $5,000, and third place $2,500. And those dollars go directly into building the business. As these businesses are putting together their business plans, they're identifying milestones that will help their business to grow. And when they achieve those milestones, the prize money is released to them.
Who was third place? I heard first, second. Who won third place?
Third place was the Tap. So
the Tap.
Right here in Yakima. Yeah.
So a local restaurant, bar type place opened during the pandemic. That's pretty impressive as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they're getting their start, and the prize money will help them to, get off the ground even better than they were before.
And as things keep opening up, more people can go enjoy that place.
Yep, definitely.
Wonderful. Let's talk about some of the other programs. This is just one of the programs. Grants are another program. Talk about all of the other things that YCDA does for Yakima County.
So we are involved in workforce development. We're working really closely with the STEM network through the Educational Service District. One of the initiatives that we're really focused on right now with them is trying to put together a series of what we call the Live Here, Work Here videos, where we go into places of business, think of some of the manufacturers around here, some of the offices, some of the larger employers. We would go in with a video camera and just do a virtual tour of these facilities, and meet and talk to local people who grew up here, graduated high school here, maybe went away to college or community college, or went to college right here, and are now working at these facilities, hear from them about their experiences, and then also have a little one-on-one with some of the classrooms, the high school, middle schools. And so it's an opportunity for kids who are growing up right here to see other people from this area in jobs right here. And we're talking about, tech jobs, people who are computer programmers, people who are machinists. So these are people who, are getting the kind of jobs that, as growing up, you typically think, we all do. I thought it doesn't matter, I think, where you grow up, you think the grass is greener over there and I got to go there. And the goal here is to show that those kind of jobs that you think you need to leave the community for are available right here. And not only that, people who grew up just like you, went to the same high school, have these jobs, and they can show you the pathway to get them. So that's one of the programs, is to just kind of continue to build that pipeline of people, because it's a lot easier to do that than it is to try to recruit somebody from, say Boston or somewhere to come and work at one of our locations, one of our businesses. And along those lines as well, we do welcome receptions, because people do make moves and move around. And so twice a year, we're going to be getting back into this. It was kind of crushed out during the pandemic, but we would hold welcome receptions at places like the Tap, places where people can get together, and we'd host, between 15 to 25 people who'd moved to the area were new here. And folks like Charlie Robin from the Capitol Theater, somebody would talk about tourism, would welcome them and let them know of all the amenities that are here. We'd have someone from the school district, someone from the hospitals, and great events, just an opportunity for people to meet, to network, to get involved in the community. So that was another kind of workforce development related initiative that we had. And then our kind of bread and butter, the stuff that we do the most, is one-on-one meetings with our local employers, our local businesses, finding out what's new, what are challenges, what are opportunities, is there things that can be done to create an environment where you can grow, where your business can be more successful. And we take that information and bring it back to city councils, to county commissioners, to the state, to talk about different policies, different things that can be done to make a friendly business environment. Another initiative that we're consistently doing is the Supporting Investments in Economic Development program. There's some dollars that the county gets from the state on a regular basis that are dedicated solely towards public infrastructure that supports new job creation. So there's dollars from this fund that are in the mill site, building the road and the water infrastructure there. Every community throughout the county has received these dollars. So some of the recent projects that were done in Yakima include work done out by the airport to help support cub crafters, work done to help support Valley Brewing. As the YMCA expanded, that new road that not new road, but the road improvements that got done out there, some of that was helped to be funded with this program as well. So there's just a lot of different, I guess you could say, a lot of different pieces to creating a business environment. And some of them we take the lead on, others we're more in a supporting role, but we're definitely, our whole mission is to try to create an environment here in the county, in the city of Yakima, where businesses can be successful.
Right. Back to the STEM and the CTE programs, I am a product of that. I went to Yakima Valley Technical Skills Center, and that is where I got the skills to do what I'm doing with you today. So I'm very involved with those programs and the CTE programs, and it is an important thing because there is local homegrown talent here.
Yeah, so we'll reach out to you. Me and Mark will be in touch. We might do a tour of the Y-PAC studios.
Wonderful. We do lots of things. A lot of it is working from home right now, but those skills that I learned over the years through the technical programs at YB Tech, and I'm still very involved with those people, help me to be able to work from home and do some of the things and provide information to our community. So I would definitely look forward to that. So great. Now let's talk about how people could find some information about you guys. Where can people find out about Yakima County Development Association and YCDA? So our website is chooseyakimavalley.com. And that has right now a lot of information related to COVID-19, but it also has a lot of information about the business community in general. So if you're looking for information that's going to help you plan for your business, we have that kind of information available on our site. We link to another site called Yakima Valley Trends that tracks over 128 different community indicators, everything from wage rates to population growth to housing costs, all of those kinds of things. So as people go and visit our website, I think that they'll find that there's a ton of information out there, not only just about who we are, but access to information that will help them as well. So how do you get permits? How do you get city licenses? Those kinds of things, that information's there as well. Wonderful information. We've talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up? I just want to say that, as a nonprofit, the Yakima County Development Association, again, formed over 30 years ago. And because of the great partnerships that we have with, a lot of entities, both public and private, the city of Yakima is a great partner. We work really closely with the State Department of Commerce. And then there's a lot of local businesses, large businesses that support us and enable us to do this work. So there is a belief out there that, if we invest in
creating the kind of place that businesses can be successful, we're all going to benefit from that. And that's, from government, from private industry. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't, point out that, the work that we're able to do is because there is this large public-private partnership that is focused on creating the best environment for our businesses to be successful.
Now, Jonathan, I want to thank you very much for all this information, and thank you so much for doing everything you do for our community.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for joining us today.